Welcome to today's snack chat.
What's
We are
up?
going to be grazing the surface of intuitive eating and its role in eating disorder treatment. Possible long conversation that we are giving you, truly a 10-minute Snapchat version, not Snapchat, snack chat version. And so we're going to dive in and yeah, here we go. So first off, who is this for, right? Who is intuitive eating for? And because it is not accessible to every single person. And so intuitive eating really would be ideal for a person that has the potential to tune into their body's hunger fullness cues. They have emotional awareness or the ability to build emotional awareness, maturity, and they also have access and privilege to food and safety and all of the things. So a little tidbit there is that intuitive eating is really not accessible for every single person. And so it is really important that when you are working with clients that you are assessing for access and making sure that the recommendations and this concept is appropriate for them. There are 10 core principles. We are not going to go into that, but a quick Google, you will see them. So yeah. Some benefits of intuitive eating. So if you are doing this work with individuals, you really can allow the individual to work through their history of their diet mentality, distorted core beliefs, and fine tune coping skills and heal the relationship between their food behaviors. It can increase body attunement for those individuals that really are capable of this. And we'll talk about who it really wouldn't be accessible for. So it really is kind of when I think about intuitive eating, it's full permission to eat all foods of your preference with body attunement, right? And so I hear a lot of times people are like, so you're saying I can eat whatever I want whenever I want? I'm like, with body attunement, right? We're giving full permission for food. So we're removing all these diet aspects, these rules, distorted beliefs, but we are also tuning into our body. And so that is ideally, it's building a healthy relationship with food and body, and a non-judgmental relationship. So it can address underlying emotional issues that are connected to your food and body and can be a stepping stone into really deeper work. So this may be the first time that someone has heard of the concept of non-diet, weight inclusive approaches. And so this can really be that like first step into digging deeper and exploring. However, it is really hard to do by yourself. So I hear people like, I read the book and now I'm really confused. So here we are. And it's really important to bring in a support team. So Gina, will you mind sharing some challenges or any other thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just love that last point you made there of how like I don't want to ever have someone who has heard of intuitive eating or is taking that approach to think like, oh no, is it not right for me? Is this bad? It's like it's incredible. And it is a stepping stone for so many people to have access to like a whole new way of looking at food, their bodies, and even just like going deeper and deeper into learning more about more like body liberatory practices, like all sorts of things. So yes. Challenges, however, definitely, intuitive eating is not supportive for everyone. It's not accessible for everyone. So some of the principles involve things like eating when you're hungry or having a large variety of foods, keeping a stock of everything you like in the house so that you can really connect to what you want and make that food when you want it. And that involves a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of privilege to be able to actually like have that food stock, to be able to think about and take time to consider what you want, to be able to prepare what you want. And of course, the founders of intuitive eating would say this isn't something you get to like do every single day at every meal. But for someone who doesn't have access to food for days at a time, how are they going to be able to honor their hunger, right? That's not actually going to be accessible for them. So it is not going to be supportive for all individuals. There's also times where people who may be neurodivergent, who may have experienced trauma, may have a very difficult time tuning into their body. And that's not a bad thing. It may actually be a really protective thing that has happened for them. So, on one hand, you may have someone who has less connection to their body and does not actually experience hunger cues. On the other hand, you may have someone who is highly sensitive to sensory perception and kind of feels all their cues really intensely. And both of those might mean that honoring hunger and fullness isn't really accessible for these individuals. So trying to do intuitive eating might actually kind of dysregulate and make their relationship with food more stressful and not support them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of times it's like, how can I utilize this in my work? Whether you're a dietitian working in eating disorder treatment or in an outpatient um, kind of practice, we'll kind of go through really just some little tidbits of how to utilize intuitive eating. So some of the principles are honoring your hunger, feeling your fullness, recognizing your emotions. And so a lot of this can be done through mindful eating practices and sensory awareness practices. So doing some mindful meals or snacks with clients, doing exposure therapy, that all can be really helpful and a part of the intuitive eating principles. It can, you can work through self-compassion and body acceptance exercises through maybe journaling or reflection exercises. A lot of times it's really helpful in building a supportive environment and social network. So there's a lot of different groups and support networks that can really support clients in feeling like they're not alone in doing this. You can have gradual exposures to fear foods and challenging food related behaviors. And so that kind of is piggybacking off of that exposure therapy. Skill building in coping mechanisms beyond food. And so there is a section in there where it talks about your emotions beyond the food. And so it is building in that emotional maturity and emotional awareness after your biological needs are being met. It is really hard to be emotionally regulated when you are not feeling satiated and having consistent access to food. Not saying it's impossible, but when you are consistently hungry or dieting, your emotions piggyback onto that and go, hello, I'm going to make you feel like a roller coaster to try to bring some awareness that you're not giving your body enough. And then Gina will talk about this a little bit, but you can utilize the evidence to support rejecting the diet mentality. So it is evidence-based. And so really throwing in the data to clients to be like, hey, we're not just making this up over here. This is researched. So
Yeah, two more little practical things I want to add in there is how we can use intuitive eating to also help clients kind of notice different voices that they have and what might be their like true authentic self and what might be the voice of diet culture or our family or doctors or like kind of food policing messages. So it kind of dietitians can play a huge role in helping kind of decipher those different kind of rules that are food thoughts that someone is having. And then also working on relationship with movement. So there is a whole like section in intuitive eating about joyful movement. And I think dietitians can have a huge role in looking at like how someone is using movement and if it is kind of in a more compensatory way, or if it is in a more pleasurable, body supportive way. So just a kind of few additional things we wanted to touch on. Tina was just mentioning evidence. So intuitive eating is an evidence-based practice that has been researched. And in fact, the newest edition of the book is loaded with research in the first the first section of the book. So it is really great if you want, as a dietitian, to learn more of the evidence for like a weight inclusive approach. And the evidence is all about health outcomes and not weight change. So the intuitive eating has been shown to improve health regardless of weight. And actually, most of the research shows that there is not weight change, but that health outcomes still improve. So that is something to know. And then just a few caveats with intuitive eating. I feel like as any topic becomes more popular, we see more like commercialized versions or social media versions of these things. So some intuitive eating kind of social media, whatever we want to call them, influencers might be talking about like honoring hunger and fullness as a way to diet or as a way to be like the only right way to eat. And we definitely do not support or believe that. Sometimes intuitive eating is even co-opted as a way to support weight loss. So there have been some big weight loss companies that have been like, this is intuitive eating, this isn't a diet, when really it very much was a diet. There was even a book called Intuitive Fasting, which is definitely co-opting the concept of intuitive eating and putting it towards a very specific restrictive type of diet. And then I sometimes see clients coming in, hearing about this concept of intuitive eating and wanting to do that work and thinking like, oh, I just want to honor my hunger and stop when I'm full. And I want to like do intuitive eating, really kind of paring it down to those two very small principles, when actually intuitive eating is much broader than that. And these clients might not actually be at a place, if they are struggling with an eating disorder, to honor hunger or fullness, because those cues may be really dysregulated because of the malnourishment that takes place in an eating disorder. So it really takes kind of knowing, is this actually something my client can even access right now? Or are they not physically in a nourished state enough to do those principles? That doesn't mean we throw intuitive eating out the window. There might be other aspects of intuitive eating that can be worked on while someone is working on nourishment.
Right. I think it's a good aspect, right? These clients maybe being in treatment or being in an undernourished state, you may just be sitting in the honor your hunger principle for a long time, because that is really the necessary starting point. So,
Yeah.
all right, y'all. Well, thanks for joining us, chatting about intuitive eating, and we will see you on the next one.
All right. See you
Bye.
later, y'all.